This is an emergency news broadcast. I repeat that this is an emergency news broadcast. These news items are ordered from least to most important. Universities are the center for science and are the most equal in gender and race. The future of life currently stuck on Earth is being kept secret. Humans will be living on the moon of Earth, the moons of Jupiter, in rings around Earth and the star, and sending walking robots to send back images of planets of the stars of Centauri. Most of you will see a walking robot in person within the next 10 years. Walking robots will be cleaning bathrooms, dishes, driving cars, everything humans can do and more when people eventually get their cloud-based religious heads out of the ground. Humans must have the freedom to end their own life. Traditions and holidays are stupid. I tell people to enjoy and pursue physical and intellectual pleasure every second of their brief 80-year lives. Support comfort and speak out against mandatory neckties, cosmetics, and jewelry. Neckties are like the wigs from the 1700s and are uncomfortable. Cosmetics can make kissing unpleasant. Pass a law to separate violent from nonviolent people locked in prison, and a law requiring that every person locked in a jail gets their own cell, including holding cells. Stop supporting the killing of primates, mammals, and birds. Please stop eating meat and wearing leather. Leather is the skin of a cow. All arrests for nudity must stop, mainly because there is no damage done by simply being nude. There will be a time when all the nations are democratic and everybody votes for laws in an Earth democratic government similar to the United Nations, only democratic. Citizenship should not be determined by marital status, but on smartness. There is more than enough space in between planets for all of life of Earth. People in science should be more popular than those in acting, sports, and music. People in sports will never cure your cancer or fix your broken bones, but people pay millions to see and hear them. There are sports cards, but no science cards. Most people can name hundreds of famous people in sports and acting, but only one or two people in the sciences. If focusing on physical beauty, people should also include breasts, penises, scrotums, vaginas, and buttocks. One of the main reasons that seeing and hearing thought was kept secret from the public for 90 years and counting is because people care so little for science. Marriage is not necessary and should get no tax benefits. The idea of monogamy goes against the drive of sexuality for most people. When you see what people think of when they are sexually aroused, you see that they want to touch a wide variety of different people. If a person really does love a different person, no piece of paper indicating this love is needed. That people all wear the same wedding ring on the same finger is frightening conformity. In a wealthy democracy like those on Earth, clearly people could be passing laws and money to provide clean water, bread, and heat to all humans. This just in, there is no God. I repeat, there is no God. Humans invented the idea of a God sometime after the invention of human communication by sound. Again, to repeat, this news is apparently official now. There is no God. I guess on a similar note, there is no Easter Bunny or Santa, but then most of you already know that. In other news, our sources have revealed that religion is not any good. Of course, our sources say people must still be allowed to practice any religion nonviolently, to believe in gods and demons, to pray, draw, type, and enjoy complete freedom of nonviolent expression. Why is the history of religious violence kept secret? The Inquisition, where innocent, nonviolent people were tortured and killed, in some cases with red-hot irons. The thousands of nonviolent people killed, like Giordano Bruno, burned at on a stake in 1600, and Chevalier de la Barre, a 19-year-old human, beheaded in 1766. Michael Servetus, the first person to correctly describe the circulatory system, was burned at the stake on orders from John Calvin. The witch trials, where thousands of female humans were killed brutally. Even now, female humans are killed with stones under the anti-sexual Islamic Sharia law. Huge numbers of humans support religion, even though the people in religion, for example, the popes, like people in sports and acting, really have a very inaccurate understanding of the universe, if any, and care little for science and truth. You will never hear words like universe, science, telescope, or DNA in a religious service, because those people are far removed from reality, but the bulk of their numbers makes their unbelievably inaccurate views of the universe and life on Earth appear to be normal. Again, one of our top stories, there are no gods. Our investigative team has uncovered that there are no devils, witches, ghosts, spirits, goblins, angels, tooth fairies, souls, phlogiston, monsters, Allah, Buddha, magic, voodoo, wizards, Zeus, Poseidon, genies, werewolves, vampires, or Cupid. So please beware of people that continue these lies. According to experts, younger people are the most common victim of these lies. I am shocked at the anti-sexuality I see every day. What explains this illogical revulsion to the nude human anatomy and physical pleasure? People are locked in jail for decades after touching the genitals of a human under the age of 18, even when no pain, physical damage, or objection. Spanking, hitting with a belt, and slapping are worse than touching of genitals and are actually assaults without consent and most of the time with clear objection. For example, recently a human was sentenced to life in jail accused with sucking the toes of younger humans. Not a bruise or scratch caused, nobody spanked, punched, or hurt in any way, but 100 years in jail. In California, no less. Male humans should be allowed to have legal sex at age 12 when they start masturbating. I remember when I was 12 wanting strongly to have sex with the females I saw in nude magazines while I masturbated. Male humans have their sexual prime from age 12 to age 30. At age 30, the male penis does not get as hard as easily as when younger, so making sex illegal for male humans from age 12 to 18, a third of their sexual prime, is cruel. To deny younger people physical pleasure besides affection from parents, siblings, and pets is neglect and unnatural. Much of this anti-sexuality is driven from religion, monogamy, and marriage. Nobody should ever be locked in a jail or even fined for owning pictures of any kind, even images of child pornography. If a non-violent human of any age is held without consent, that human should be freed. If a human of any age is physically hurt and or damaged with intent and without permission, the person that directly caused the pain or damage should be locked in jail for a time that represents the severity of the violent activity according to 100-year-old democratic assault laws. How can people see what people did violence to children if owning images of child pornography is illegal? As a result, the people that actually do hurt young people go unseen and free. There is nothing wrong with bisexuality, and next to acts of violence, bisexuality should be the least of the worries for a human on planet Earth. When people finally do get to see the images people think of when masturbating, perhaps in another century or two, they will see that almost all humans have some level of bisexuality. People refuse to recognize that masturbation is natural and healthy. Male and female humans should be taught how to masturbate, and that masturbating at any age and at any time and anywhere is A-OK. For millions of years, mammals have been putting penises in vaginas and rectums. If sex was stopped, most of life on Earth would die up because there would be no reproduction. There have been millions of years of erect penises, but through the centuries, humans are still shocked by seeing the nude human anatomy. Thane Eugene Caesar killed Senator Robert Kennedy in 1968. Sirhan did injure 5 people, but completely missed RFK. The autopsy by Thomas Taguchi shows clearly RFK was shot 4 times at close range from behind. All human languages use the same 50 sounds. A simple 1 letter equals 1 sound only alphabet can be used as an international phonetic alphabet. All arrests and fines for prostitution must stop. Accepting money for touching a penis, breast, scrotum, or vagina must be legal for at least one reason. There is no damage done and there is clear consent. If male humans could give money to female humans for legal sex, there would be less violence on the planet Earth. Getting money for ejaculating humans, like cleaning bathrooms and serving food, can provide money to pay for an apartment and food. William Rollins killed a pig with an X-ray beam, and this method of killing may have been used to kill George Gershwin and Bob Marley by giving them tumors. Muscles can be moved by beaming particles of light onto any brain. Beams of light sent to a brain can be used to make a person drive off a road or fall down stairs, causing damage and homicide. Psychology is actually fraud and a pseudoscience. Psychology is not like the other sciences and is more like the pseudoscience of phrenology, the idea that behavior may be determined by shape of skull. Psychology should not be grouped together with any of the real sciences like cardiology, dentistry, chemistry, construction, or robot building. With 9 of 10 humans accepting that a God, hell, and angels exist, and that astrology is accurate, that most people are unrealistic is common. But punishing and torturing these people until they say that there are no gods, that astrology is pseudoscience, etc., appears to be too brutal, and in addition would violate assault laws. We must let people have their delusions, even when we know that they are not true. The most we can try to do is educate people with the stories of science and stop them from doing violence to other humans. The labels of psychosis and neurosis are very abstract. What should be most important is determining if a human is violent or not. The only way to determine if a human is going to be violent is by seeing if the person has past events of violence or makes threats of violence, and people in psychology are not using this method, although much of their often illegal activity is done secretly. People in psychology will never again perform an operation on a human, and for now can only prescribe drugs. Hundreds of thousands of nonviolent people are routinely tied to hospital beds with 4-point restraints and left for hours with no choice but to urinate and defecate on themselves. Straitjackets, electroshock therapy, and lobotomies are being used on nonviolent people without consent and even against clear objection. Finally, involuntary drugging and coercing people to take meds was witnessed. People that break a violent law should go to a prison, not to a hospital. There will be a time when people go through the psychiatric hospitals of the planet, free the nonviolent that want to be free, and transfer the violent people to prisons. All arrests and fines for drug use, owning drugs, buying, trading, and selling drugs must stop. Guns cause far more damage than drugs and are legal. Putting objects into your own body, no matter how dangerous to yourself, that do not physically harm any other person must never be called a crime. We should not arrest people for using drugs because we should not arrest people for overeating, clearly a risky and unhealthy activity. The arrest of people that use drugs is a war on nonviolent intellectual people by brutal violent people. People are shocked and outraged at learning that a person uses drugs, but clearly using drugs is not as bad as first-strike violence. We should do away with required prescription from humans with at least one PhD degree. Think of the hypocrisy of people that use alcohol or tobacco voting to lock other people in jail that use drugs. During prohibition of alcohol, people that sold alcohol were labeled criminals. Now companies that sell beer, alcohol, guns, and tobacco are viewed as regular legal companies. This is similar to the way marijuana, cocaine, and heroin companies will be viewed in the future. Many people think that drugs are a bad influence on people, but so are guns, alcohol, tobacco, and religion. We would love people to stay away from religion, but not by locking them down. Locking up nonviolent kids for years simply for owning a six-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes is barbaric. Most of you do not get to see most of the atrocities involving arrests and storage of nonviolent people in prisons. People are being brutalized. Their families are being broken up. Their property sold. The billion-dollar sum to clothe, house, and feed these nonviolent, self-sufficient people is being paid for with important tax money. For many people caught using drugs, not alcohol or tobacco, their property is sold off and the money goes to the people and the government police. All this when guns are legal and people are using guns, not drugs, to kill more and more nonviolent humans. Show more compassion and empathy for those people in prison for drugs that have never been violent or caused damage to any other person. Violent people should be sentenced for more time than nonviolent people in the prisons, but this is not what is happening. Frank Fiorini Sturgis, one of the people caught in the Watergate, killed the President of the USA, John F. Kennedy, from the front in 1963. This news is now official. After some 40 years of secrecy and lies, the truth has been revealed. Frank Fiorini of Florida, a self-claimed soldier of fortune with ties to E. Howard Hunt, the U.S. CIA, and Richard Nixon, shot and killed John Kennedy from behind a picket fence in Dealey Plaza, Dallas, Texas. More news just in. Lee Oswald probably did also shoot from the school book depository and did kill Tippit. When looking back, perhaps this news seems obvious. This is why Robert Kennedy used the word effort. Cronkite used the word official. Cyril Wecht, fragmented fracture. The two F's together were for Frank Fiorini. That Nixon may have been involved in the killing of JFK is what the Watergate hearings and Nixon resignation was all about. Sam Ervin used the words for FIA and similar double F's to echo that Nixon, together with people in the CIA and the Good Old Boys Network, were involved with the killing of JFK. Fiorini died in 1992 and never spent one day in jail for killing JFK. The majority of the public never even knew that he was the person that killed JFK 40 years before now. The number of people that covered up and even to this day cover up what really happened to JFK is disgustingly large, including free, full-pardon Gerald Ford, Arlen Specter, Louis Alvarez, and thousands of other brutal white people. The history of science is not shown and told to the public. Next to evolution, this is probably the most important story that people need to hear. There is a Ten Commandments movie for the large screen, but no movie called Science is an indication of how religious the majority of humans on Earth are. Most of the events in the story of Moses are clearly not true, like Moses parting the Red Sea, like the stories of Jesus turning one loaf of bread into many, or people seeing Jesus after death. These are clearly false. Homo erectus entered Europe from Africa. Sapiens made ships of wood, grew plants, casted metal, invented paper, engines, satellites, and walking robots, to only name a few. These stories inspire people to contribute to science, and that can only help. We still have the problems of viruses, bacteria, aging, going to other stars, plenty of problems that need to be examined. The history of Earth should also be told. That a large number of people actually do not think that evolution is true is shocking to the entire news team here. Clearly, evolution is a fact. First DNA copied and made the first cell, bacteria. This cell was surrounded by a second cell wall, making objects like amoebas. Then the first multicellular living objects grew, like worms and jellyfish, 1 billion years before now. Fish evolved into amphibians, amphibians to reptiles, birds and mammals evolved, and then finally the first primates. This is clear and should be shown in a movie, but so far no movie called Evolution has been made. For all the money in the universities and the national science foundations, I am shocked that no video explaining the story of evolution has ever been made for the public. People need to support complete and total democracy for the entire planet Earth and all future stars that life grows to. We need to democratize the governments of Earth and start with democratic reforms. We need to be voting on all existing state, national, and planetary laws to see if they get popular support. We need to vote for all United Nations people and decisions. We need to be voting on the budget for people in the military, FBI, KGB, police, and every person employed in every government all over the planet. All court decisions should be voted on by any and all people by counting votes on government computers through the internet. We must vote down the Electoral College. U.S. presidents should be chosen by popular vote only. I want to record some of my votes now. I vote no on all drug laws, no on all prostitution and solicitation laws, no on Title 17 and 35 trademark, copyright, and patent, no on Chapter 47 fraud and false statements, no on Chapter 50 gambling, no on Chapter 63 mail fraud, no on Chapter 71 obscenity, no on Chapter 79 perjury, no on Chapter 81 piracy and privateering. These are my votes. Your votes may differ. We need complete freedom of all information with no exceptions. We need an end to trademarks, copyrights, patents, and privacy. There is no way of stopping particles of light from moving through the universe, and nobody should be locked in a jail for simply owning images no matter what they contain. Trademark will probably be the first to fall. Copyright law is stopping the spread of information and truth on planet Earth. Getting permission to use a photo or text from a person is too labor-intensive and difficult. Like DNA, copying is human nature. Copying is how we learn. Any person that has ever done a report recognizes that you have to find a book or video as a source for data. Learning the alphabet or to read is to learn to copy and reproduce what you see. Patents are slowing science and technological progress on Earth, and usually those people that an idea is copied from never get $1. Privacy will probably be the last of the laws to violate free info to fall. I am angered when looking at internet web pages and seeing a statement at the bottom of the main page that explains how they obey all privacy laws, because the reality is that millions of these people watch people in their houses and even hear and see their thoughts. We all here felt more than a little bit nauseous, asking why this bunch of hypocrite humans do not defend free information and question privacy laws. After all, they are clearly violating the privacy of millions of people. Why would they not work to change the privacy laws or question the idea of privacy? Privacy is equivalent to secrecy. Freedom of all medical information is perhaps the only way of stopping or even slowing the spread of transmittable diseases. While we live in this secrecy and ignorance, we can be sure that more people will get HIV and herpes, knowing that they never would have if they had access to a planetary health database. In all courtrooms, there should be at least one camera and microphone capturing images and sounds that are made available to the public. Popular support for privacy is stopping people from seeing the interesting images captured over the years, images that show what happened to Marilyn Monroe, Jimi Hendrix, JFK, MLK, and millions of other interesting, smart, important people. The popularity of the myth of privacy is allowing violence to continue. Simple cameras on main streets available to the public would help to solve 6 of 10 violent assaults and homicides, but the popularity of privacy is allowing these violent people to go unseen and free. The Nicole Simpson and Jam Master Jay killings are are clear examples of killings that would now be solved because of simple cameras on main streets. Make stopping violence the number one priority of people on earth. Change the focus of locking people in jail for nonviolent offenses like drugs and prostitution, and to start locking more people in jail for violent offenses. Violence is worse than drug use, worse than prostitution, worse than stealing, worse than lying, worse than molestation, worse than treason, worse than almost every activity, but yet people are doing nothing in the effort to actively stop violence. Why is violence not viewed as the worst evil on planet Earth? Why are drug use and sexuality viewed as worse than violence? Why are there no ad campaigns against violence? Not just domestic or sexual violence, but all violence. There are million-dollar ads against drug use, but no ads that tell people that violence is wrong or even explain the laws and punishments for violence. Why are there sex offender registries, but no violent offender registries? I think that when given the choice to be locked in a room with a human that has nonviolent sexual or drug offenses, or a human with violent crimes like assault, most of us will take the human with the nonviolent crimes every time. We ask you out there to please vote for a registry of violent offenders as soon as possible, and our advice is to use caution when hiring or accepting into your house or business people with violent events in the past, if you can ever find that information. Again, with a final cry of emergency news anguish, I say that low-cost cameras on main streets with images archived on government computers available to the public that pays for them would stop 6 of 10 violent crimes and help to catch the people that did violence that now live free out of prison and have only been seen by an elitist few million people. There are a growing number of cameras I see on streets, but when do we all get to see all those images? All matter in the entire universe may be made of particles of light called photons. Light probably is made of particles and has no amplitude and does not travel in a sine wave shape as previously thought, but moves in a straight line. When a person lights a match, photons from the match and oxygen in the air enter the eye of the person. Eventually, there are no more photons left in the match. Most people say that the mass of the match was changed into energy, but I claim that the photons that were in the match simply exited and separated from the rest of the matter in the match. In other words, the photons are always in the match and not made at the time of lighting the match. In this view, photons are viewed as pieces of matter and the basic unit of all matter, and even the so-called antimatter in the universe. I think that there are no black holes or wormholes or any kind of holes in space-time. I am stating for the record clearly here my opinion that there is no dilation of time in the universe. People should show and explain the 10 tensor equations of the general theory of relativity in a simple video that explains the main proofs of the accuracy of the general theory of relativity, and the same is true for the so-called standard model theory of the universe, including all math. Using either general relativity or Newtonian physics, a person still has to calculate the movement for all the pieces of matter in the universe to have an accurate model of the universe. And the same is true for planets going around a star. Since each piece of matter influences the movement of other pieces of matter, anything else is only an approximation. The idea that all matter is made of particles of light is being ignored and suppressed by people in science and the media. Eventually, as was the case for Lysenko in Russia, the truth will be unavoidable as more information leaks out. What the public does not know, but should have known years before now, is that there are billions and billions of micro video cameras in houses and apartments all around the planet Earth. These cameras are put there mainly by people in government, television, and communication companies. For example, people employed by Time Warner, FBI, CIA, Interpol, BBC, KGB, New York Times, all the media companies, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, Fox, CNN, AT&T, many major businesses, including universities and wealthy individual people, put cameras inside the houses of as many people as possible, and in particular, interesting people. This has been happening since the invention of the microphone camera, wired and wireless communication. Again, these cameras are microscopic in size, powered by photons, also very small in size. The cameras are part of vast wired and wireless networks. Many of these images may be moving around through space without most humans even knowing. Some images and sound signals are not scrambled and form a group of free information people. Others are scrambled. Think of the images that must be in the archives of the big media companies. Millions of images of violence and sex that would expose thousands of homicidal people that should have been captured and locked in a jail cell years before now. Millions of dishonest people that lied to the public and got away with it. For example, all the people that knew that Frank Sturgis killed JFK and actively covered it up from the public. Thought can be seen and heard. I realize that this news is unbelievable. I repeat, thought can be seen and heard. What any brain that has eyes sees can be seen from the back of the head in infrared light. Look closely at these images. These are images taken from behind a human that captures what a brain sees. In this example, an eye chart from the people at National Geographic in the video, The Incredible Human Machine, made in 1975 and available in many public libraries. The round object is a human eyeball. Where this image was taken is a complete mystery to our staff. Perhaps as many as 1 million people now actively use infrared cameras like the camera that captured these images every day. Some of you people know all about this machine. This is the only physical evidence we have uncovered so far that shows clearly that what the brain of any species sees can be seen. Do you share our excitement and curiosity? Please contact us with any details you have, and in particular images, and we will bring these to the public. Again, I repeat that thought can be seen and heard. What any brain that has eyes sees can be seen from the back of the head in infrared light. Images and sounds any species with a brain remembers, for example, a cow playing back the memory of a song heard on the radio, and even dreams can be seen and heard in the infrared. Now for more shocking news, this uncovery that what a brain sees can be seen in infrared light was found perhaps as early as 1910 for seeing images from a brain, and as early as 1913 for hearing memories. Humans have been born, lived, and died not knowing that other people were listening and seeing their thoughts. Think of the secrecy and dishonesty of millions of humans that use these machines every day. Has there ever been such a secret cult of dishonest humans? In the lingo of these people, seeing what other people see is to watch the eyes of other people. Clearly, the people in the government, police, and military, universities, and television companies are involved in buying and developing these devices. Because the television, radio, and newspaper people are all involved in this secret industry, the public has never been informed of these extremely important events. The public can learn how to make an atom bomb that can destroy the planet Earth, but not how the harmless damage-free cameras that see thought in the infrared work, or have even been told that some people have succeeded in seeing thought. Humans could be using these cameras to determine if the brain of a body in a coma is at least remembering images and sounds, if a baby is crying because of hunger, seeing images of food, or if there is some other problem. These tools help reveal to the public the truth of many otherwise unsolvable homicides. People will be talking for decades about the 100-year secret of seeing and hearing thought, just as people still analyze how 3 million people could have been systematically killed with gas and burned to ashes in World War II without the public knowing for 5 years. Images and sounds can be sent to any brain. I repeat, images and sounds can be sent to any brain, including the human brain. These images and sounds can be beamed directly onto the brain and do not enter the brain through the eyes or ears. People are being misled and used like pawns by other people planting images and sounds in their heads. Please be aware that images and sounds in your head may not be your own, and that these images and sounds are not sent from any gods or devils trying to communicate with you. They are sent by very secretive idiot people. These machines and communicating by thought have a real positive use and make communication easier and faster, but they are being hoarded and abused by a secretive group of maybe a few million humans kept from the public that should be able to enjoy this 90-year-old form of communication. This ends this emergency news message. Please copy and distribute this video freely. There is no copyright on this video. My name is Ted Huntington. Thank you.
Jail for particle murder. Jail for particle murder. Jail, 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 jail for particle murder. Particle murder. Jail. Particle murder. Jail. Jail, 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 jail for particle murder. Show the neuron writing. Show the neuron writing. Show the neuron writing. Off with the no. On with the yes. No, off, yes, on. No, off, yes, on with a no. Off with a yes, on. Turn the service on for those who say yes to the public seeing. We figured out how to see and hear thought back in 1810 or something like that.